Your shooting grip on the pistol has two main functions. The first is to help keep the sights in alignment on target all the way through the trigger press. The other one is to help control the recoil of the gun so the sights drop right back down onto the target the minute the recoil cycle is complete. In general, we want support all the way around the gun on all sides. The gun is going to recoil. We can't stop that at all. In the first moment of recoil, effectively your hands are big bags of water, and so the gun is going to move. However, we can mitigate some of that recoil. We can make some of it less, and we can also channel the recoil into one direction if we're doing it right. And if we manage to channel the recoil so it moves upward and also control as much of it as we can, it means that one, it only has to drop down in one direction to get back on target, and two, gravity is going to help us. However, how much the gun recoils is a function of our grip mechanics and our grip strength. So if we have good grip mechanics and a really good solid grip, we can lessen the recoil as much as possible, make it recoil straight up. Therefore, gravity will help bring it down, and it won't take much muscular contraction on our part to get ourselves back on target. So when talking about grip, again, we want support all the way around the gun, and we want to drive that recoil impulse to only allow gun movement upwards. So here's one way to do that. We take the gun, we put it on our shooting grip, we get our grip as high as possible as we can on the gun. We also have it as close to in alignment with our wrist and forearm as we can get. Now, everything I'm going to say here will kind of be a function of your hand size, your hand strength, the gun itself, its grip size, the relative dimensions, and so on. Okay. Given a choice, we want our hand as high up as possible, not like that, no gaps here, but as high up as possible, and then with the wrist and gun in alignment. We don't want ourselves offset like this or offset like that. Okay? Either way of shooting, whether it's here or here, is going to give you some problems. So we prefer to have this directly in line with the forearm. So there's the first hand. Okay, when we place the first hand on, we keep this thumb out of the way for the moment. So we have this entire side of the grip available to us. And then we take the first knuckle and the index finger on our other hand and put it down here at the bottom of the trigger guard. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to rotate my wrist forward, and what's going to happen is my hand is going to be pressing against the grip all the way through here. I put it here, it rotates forward, and what we've just done is created support all the way around the gun. Okay, my hands are completely in contact with the grip all the way around the entire thing. I've doubled my control on the front, and I take this thumb and simply relax it on top of this part. And there's my grip. First grip here, index, rotate that forward, clamp with both hands, relax the thumb. And that's all it takes. From a draw or something like that, the hand simply makes contact here, rotates forward, relax the thumb down, and there's your grip. So the thumbs are pointing forward. Notice how high they are and how far forward they are on the frame. Now there's different amounts of this, which we'll talk about in a bit. For the moment, we just rotate it forward. We don't want it back here. We don't want it back here. We definitely don't want that. Relax the thumb on, and there is our shooting grip with control all the way around the gun. Given all the comments so far about using the grip to mitigate recoil, to control the direction of recoil, and so on, should make it pretty obvious why we don't use the wrist support method or the teacup grip anymore. You can see that neither one of those will do much in terms of recoil mitigation. The thumb's locked down grip, where this thumb is curled down and this hand is on top of it, and the other thumb holds it in place. Seems a fairly decent grip to people. When they grab a hold of something, they want to get their first hand on it, and then they want to clamp it all in place with their second hand. And many people like that. The problem with it is, in terms of recoil mitigation, it normally adds some torque to the recoil of the gun. Because if I have my hand here and this thumb locked down, and then I lock it down with my other hand, what I've just done is I've introduced a gap between my hand and the frame. If my thumb is in the way, this hand cannot be in contact with the frame. So all the way through here, my hand's not in contact. All the way up here, my hand is not in contact. And so I don't have any forward control on the gun, forward on the frame. And it means on this side of the gun, on the base of the frame, I don't have any contact there either. And if you have someone who's been shooting this way for a while and then have them switch to this, they generally say something like, wow, it's not twisting anymore. And then we have the finger on the trigger guard method. Okay, instead of having the second hand here, the finger is moved forward on the trigger guard and pulls back on that. And looking at it, you'd say, well, that's a fairly good way to control recoil. If I'm putting pressure here on the front, I can help keep the front of the gun down. And there are some people who are very good who do that. Jerry Michalek and Eric Graffel, for example, are excellent examples of world-class shooters who put their finger on the front of the trigger guard. There are also, however, hundreds of other world-class shooters who say, don't ever do that. It makes it much harder. I can't shoot nearly as well as Jerry or Eric whatsoever. And yet I will tell you that most of the people I've seen shoot much better if they don't put their finger there. They get better recoil mitigation if they keep their hands in this way. That way they can clamp around the gun. Okay, this part of the hand tends to be strongest. Clamping around here tends to work best for recoil mitigation in what I've seen for people. Putting the finger in front like that, generally, if you watch people shoot in competition and they have the finger in the front, generally the gun is jumping a lot more. One question I often get from people is, with that second hand, how much do we rotate it into position? And the answer to that really kind of depends on, again, your hand size versus the grip size and the type of gun you're working with. Bob Vogel, for example, who is an outstanding world-class shooter, actually has his hand clear up here. Parts of it actually covering the trigger guard, it is so far forward. Bob also has gorilla hands and incredible grip strength. For me, when I try and use that with my normal size hands, I don't get nearly the recoil control simply because I cannot grip as hard as he does. Putting it clear up here does allow you to control more of the forward part of the gun. However, it's a worse grip in terms of power, so if you have extra power to spare, great. Go ahead and grip far forward like that. You'll be amazed at what it can do. If, however, you have a normal person's grip, you're actually going to find it's probably worse at recoil mitigation than something a little farther back. On the other hand, occasionally you will see some people doing this, or some people doing this with this thumb down. You can see how the second hand thumb is down here by the trigger guard. You don't want to go that far back. Okay, because, again, we want both hands to be as high up on the gun as possible. We've got this clear up on the back strap. We want this on the high part of the frame above the trigger guard. If we start pulling this thumb back like this hand starts floating lower and lower, which means we have an open spot here, and so the gun will torque and recoil. So, in general, first hand, high up on the gun, wrapped around, start with thumb high. Second hand, knuckle on the index finger at that index point on the inside of the trigger guard, rotate forward, get your hand in contact all the way up and through like that, relax this thumb down on top. And there you have a very effective shooting grip.